Hey folks, and welcome back to Subto Investor. My name is Hans, and in this episode I'm going to be talking about why Subto just isn't working like it used to anymore, and what exactly you can do about that to continue scaling massive passive income in your real estate investing business. Stay tuned. Now let's be clear, I will continue to buy Subto and pursue Subto deals until the day I die, and creative finance is still working and will continue to work into the foreseeable future. None of that has changed. The heart and soul of my business is creative financing. However, Subto in particular is not working like it used to in markets like my own, which are in the Midwest, which are relatively strong markets. And so I am not talking about markets which have become buyers markets and where inventory has flooded the zone and we are seeing home prices dropping. That's kind of a different story. But in relatively stable markets, Subto deals are becoming a lot less common. Now, why is that? Well, the answer is really simple, and it's that there are fewer good interest rate loans available. The quantity has merely decreased because as homes sell, which had good interest rate loans on them, those interest rate loans get paid off and then they go bye-bye. So when you are looking at lists like a low equity MLS list or low equity expired list, most of the interest rates are now in the 5, 6, 7% ranges. And when you do find a good interest rate deal, which is like an expired listing or on MLS, oftentimes they just have a lot of equity or just enough equity where they could sell that house, take some seller concessions, pay the real estate agent, and pay off the loan. So why would they be motivated to sell to you subject to? Let me show you exactly what I'm talking about on my own personal marketing lists on PropStream and on Google Spreadsheets. Let me show you. So I'm within my PropStream account and I'm looking at my expired low equity St. Louis 2025 list, and I can sort by the date that it was added to this list, the date that the property was added to this list. I'm going to be looking at the last batch of leads uploaded to PropStream, which is about 24 leads. Roughly what we're looking at on this page. Now, the non-low equity expired leads get put into a different bucket down here. We're not going to look at that because those houses just have a lot of equity, less than 50% loan to value. We're not even going to think about these ones. In this particular list, these are filtered for loan to values 50% or higher, meaning they have less than 50% equity. I know that that is a huge range, and typically Subto, you're going a lot less equity than that, like 20% or less equity, for example. But I wanted to expand this range just to see what was out there and get more potential leads in the pipeline. But let me show you exactly what's happening with these leads. If we start at the top of the list, scroll over through PropStream and come to the interest rate on the first loan, which is called Loan 1 interest rate. So that's the primary first lien position loan. We're looking for good interest rates here, like anything below 6%, anything in the 2s, 3s, 4s, even 5s can be a good deal. And then we're looking for low equity. So I like to target deals with less than 50 grand of equity generally, because less than 50 grand equity, if there are some repairs that need to be done to the house and if the agents need to get paid, sometimes 50 grand of equity is not enough to sell the house. Some people look at loan to value, like we talked about a second ago, but I really like to look at the actual amount of estimated equity myself. At the top, we see these houses have a ton of equity here, over 100K, 83K, 136K, 178K. Here's one with 54K equity. Again, that's too much equity for me to pursue it as a Subto. But even if we were to pursue it, we wouldn't want it because the interest rate's 6.93. Here's one with 51K equity estimated, but the interest rate's 6.9. Let's keep going down the list and find an actually low equity lead. Here's one with close to 14 grand of estimated equity. And look at this. The interest rate on this house is 3.13%. This is all estimated values, by the way, not actual values. That's a good interest rate, even though it is an FHA loan and there's MIP on the loan most likely, which is going to effectively make that interest rate higher because you have to make that monthly mortgage insurance payment as well. So maybe it's actually closer to a 4% because it's FHA. However, it's in Illinois. It's in Illinois in a rural place because I don't even recognize the name of the town. So the one potential lead we've found so far is an FHA loan, 3.13%. Good rate, still a good loan. I would definitely go after that deal. However, I also see that there are 3 loans on the property. Now, it's possible that those are partial claims, which is no big deal. But if there's something funky going on there, I want to look into it. But this is a sub-2 deal lead. This is definitely a sub-2 deal. When you have low equity, a good interest rate, that's potentially a sub-2 deal. Let's keep going through the list to see how many others are on this most recent batch of expired leads. 33K of equity. That's kind of in a good zone. That's not that much equity. It's 85% loan to value. That's good. 7% interest rate. Not good. Not going to go after that deal. Again, 15K estimated equity, 94% loan to value. That's looking good, but a 7.13% interest rate. All right, 94K is too high. 29K equity, that's in a pretty good zone. 5.09% interest rate's decent, but it's FHA. So effectively, that rate might be closer to a 6, but I might be getting a little bit of equity if I buy it sub-2, so maybe the deal is still worth it and it's in a good area. I would say that's definitely a sub-2 deal lead. So I would reach out to the Illinois one, I'd reach out to this one, and then let's see, 62K equity is too high, 113K is too high, 52K is too high, 81K is too high, $7,000 equity, 94% loan to value. Now we're looking good here, potential sub-2 deal, but 7.18% interest rate. Not touching that one. And let's go down the list. 21K equity, that might be a deal. 77% loan to value at a 3.53 FHA. It's in Ferguson, not my favorite part. It's kind of a C plus class, but that's a potential deal right there. So that's 3. And then 57K, 130K, 52, 75, 35, but a bad interest rate. Anything else down here? There's a $2,000 worth of equity. However, it's a 6.63%. And that's about it. We made it through that week's batch of low equity, expired MLS leads, and there were like 3, I think. Were there 3? That was it. There was only 3. Let's just say that's an average for the week. So maybe there's 9, 12 a month that you're marketing to. Okay, that's not that many leads. Okay, those are good quality leads, absolutely amazing deals. But if you have a targeted buy box where you only want to buy in a certain area and not expand beyond that, which is what I have, it's not that many leads. So those are good quality leads. Again, maybe I'll buy some of those houses. Maybe you'll buy some of them sub-2. It's not enough to scale a business. Now let me show you the on MLS list that I also have going. What we just looked at were expired listings with low equity. However, now we're going to look at on MLS listings currently active to purchase through a real estate agent with low equity and see how many of those there are out there with not only low equity, but a good interest rate as well, where a sub-2 offer makes total sense. All right, here's the list. And over here, you can see this last week's batch, there are 4 leads. And of those 4 leads, I have notes that 2 of them are in the 6% ranges, which is not good, Not sure why they're on here because I'm pretty sure we have a filter to go only below 6%. But so I'm not really interested in those, but there are 2 others where I could reach out to the agent and see if a sub-2 even makes sense. Looking at the previous week, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. However, one of them has way too much equity. I cut it off at 50 grand equity or more. I'm just not even going to reach out to the agent. But we have 5 other leads that we could reach out to from the previous week. And then let's keep going down the list from the week prior. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as well. Although one of them has a bad interest rate loan. And then the week prior to that, similarly low number of leads, 1, 2, just 2 on the week prior to that with one with a bad interest rate as well. So this is interesting because it tells you that there aren't that many people with good interest rates out there selling their houses that have low equity. What this means is that most of the low equity sellers, people selling their homes with a good interest rate on their home, they have equity. They've got plenty of equity to pay off the loan. Now, I know there's going to be a bunch of people who might watch this video video who are like, well, Hans, those folks who are selling their home with a good interest rate and they got a lot of equity, haven't you ever heard about hybrid deals where the owner carries back a portion of their equity in the form of a note? Yeah, I've heard about it. Let me ask you this. How scalable of a model is that if you are looking to buy in a particular circumscribed buy box in certain zip codes and you're looking to buy one or more houses a month? How scalable of a model is that you're going to go out and convince the agent or the homeowner to carry back a huge chunk of their equity to you and just get paid a little bit at closing so that you can take over this great interest rate? How many people are going to do that every single month in your local market if you're in a market like mine? If you're a wholesaler and you're doing this nationally, that's a different story because you've got all these different markets, all these different leads that you can look at, and you can cherry pick the best ones, but you are just a wholesaler. I'm sorry, you are not holding these properties long term. You don't know how they're going to perform on a lease option or contract or deed. So even if you did think that, oh, well, I could just own houses in 20 different states and just cherry pick the best ones, I got news for you. That's not going to work. That's a whole different story, but that's not going to work. The people successful in this business stick to one principal market. Maybe they have another or two or three, but in my experience, people doing this model are within a general radius of where they live, or if they're in a virtual market, they're not like in 10 different virtual markets. It's like one, maybe two, maybe three. If they're really crazy, maybe five, but that's like super ambitious. My point is that if you are looking to scale massive passive income using creative finance as your acquisition strategy, it's a tough market for it. You're going to have a tough time. So what are you going to do? What am I doing in reaction to the market changes? Well, I created a whole YouTube video previous to this called the BRRRR Sub2 strategy. And you can watch that video that goes into depth that introduces my response to this situation. But in short, what this means is that I still have to go buy a good deal and find a good deal, but the way I fund the deal is going to look a little bit different because Subto is just a funding strategy, guys. It's not a whole business model or anything like that. It's just simply a way to fund a deal. That's all Subject to is when we're talking about it on acquisitions. So you still have to go out and find a good deal, but now for me, it's going to be cash deals primarily. I will still go do some owner financed and Subto deals for sure if I can get those. But to scale my business, continue to buy houses month after month, they're going to have to be good cash deals with some equity. Okay, so you find the deal, fund the deal, you exit the deal. Those are the 3 steps in real estate. With Subto, what was nice is that the finding of the deal and the funding of the deal were coupled together, and you didn't have to deal with banks. You didn't have to go get a loan, refinance, do all this kind of thing. It really streamlined the process. But now you're going to have to do a little bit more work in the funding of the deal. That's it. So what you can do is learn how to buy good cash deals, work on your credit, learn how to BRRRR out of those good cash deals so that you can hold these properties, and then everything else is the same. Nothing's really changing for me. Nothing significant in my mind has changed. The only thing that's changed for me is now I have to market a little bit differently and I have to analyze deals a little bit differently than I used to. But that's really it. Got to deal with the lender. I get it. Got to get some more private money. Not a huge deal. Everything else remains the same. I know that sounds crazy. I know this whole thing maybe seems like, well, yeah, that's a whole different business model, really, isn't it, Hans? Not really. Not really. My business model has always been buy a good deal, fund a good deal, and exit a good deal, passive, and create income. Nothing's changed there. Just simply the funding of the deals. And as you reverse engineer backward to your marketing strategy, the marketing, the analyzing of the deals as well. That's a little brief synopsis of what my thoughts are on the local, what my thoughts are on the current state of Subto. There's a lot more that can be said, but I'll leave it at that. What are you guys seeing in your local markets? Are you seeing a paucity of Subto deals, or are you seeing an abundance? Am I wrong about this? Let me know. Let me know what you'd like me to talk about in subsequent videos. You guys are the ones who motivate me to continue making videos, so any likes, comments, subscriptions are greatly appreciated. Again, this is Hans with Subto Investor. Stay creative. Peace.